All right, I'd like to call this Town of Cedar Lake Planning Commission October 20th, 2021 meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Carnahan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Here.
Mr. Foreman?
Present.
Mr. Sharp?
Here.
Mr. Sauer will be joining us from Zoom. Mr. Becker?
Present.
Here.
Mr. Kapora?
Present.
Mr. Wilkening?
Here.
Mr. Oliphant?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Ms. Murr? Present. Ms. Abernathy? Present.
Okay, thank you. Meeting minutes. August 4th work session. August 18th, 2021 public meeting. September 1st, 2021 zoning ordinance work session. September 15th, 2021 public meeting on October 6th, 2021 work session. We have 4 batches of minutes. Does anyone have any questions about any of the minutes?
Okay.
August 4th is good, August 18th, September 1st.
Was that 1 month
15th,
better than when they updated it?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
October 6th, yeah. Okay, Heather, you good with the minutes?
Yes, I am.
All right. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion for the approval of those 4 minutes? And I would call them out by date.
So moved. No, we get to each one, right?
Please. Or do them all together.
I'll make a motion to approve all the minutes for each one of those that you read off. Your approval.
Okay, would anyone like to second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Kapoor. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Sauer?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries. Item 1, Centennial Phase 15 Letter of Credit. Centennial Development LLC. The request is to accept the improvements and convert the performance letter of credit to a maintenance letter of credit. Good evening.
Good evening, Jeff Yatsko, Old Toff Homes. That's correct, we're asking to convert our performance letter of credit for Phase 15 to maintenance. The letter from Don had that in the amount of $32,811.68. So we're asking for approval to convert that.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about the conversion in Don's letter? No one?
I do not, no.
Okay. All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the approval of the $32,811.68?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Bob. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by
There will be a 3-year period too.
Bob, would you lend your motion to include 3
3-year
years?
period.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Second by Mr. Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes?
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Sauer?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Item number 2, Cedar Lake Storage LLC final plat. Owner, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, 9019 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner, Tim Porter, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, 9019 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Vicinities 9011 through 9019 West 133rd Avenue. Petitioner is requesting a final plat. Good evening.
Good evening, Tim Porter, 9019 West 133rd Avenue. Here to raise our letter of credit and get approval for that, hopefully.
Okay, Mr. Austin, the letter that they submitted from the bank, is that
It's close.
I sent markings and comments to Greg Bracco, the bank officer at Peoples. I don't expect there to be any difficulties or issues with it. Any action you take tonight will be contingent upon the letter of credit being finalized.
Okay. Mr. Oliphant, you're good with the $242,741.40?
Correct. That'll suffice for the kind of private improvements associated with phase 1 and phase 2. There's a separate letter of credit for the public improvements that was noted in our September 15th letter. That amount would be $18,854.00. And then there's associated inspection fee, the 3% inspection fee, which would be $514.20. And then the MS4 inspection fee of $1,000.
All right, Jill, do we have all this in order on paper, what Don's talking about?
Yeah, it was in your last meeting packet, and I inadvertently didn't put it in here.
Okay, just for clarification, the $242,741.40, is added to the $18,854 and the $514.20 and the $1,000?
It's a separate letter of credit
Oh,
for
it's
the
separate.
private improvement, so.
Okay, and that letter of credit's good?
That letter of credit, based on David's review and discussion with the bank, the dollar amount is good, it's just finalizing the draft of the document itself.
And the $1,000 is for the MS4.
Correct.
I guess, where is that $18,854 at, Jill?
It's for the sidewalks.
Now, where's the paper that says that?
I'm looking in your September 15th
Okay.
packet right now.
That hasn't been paid already, has it?
No, it has
Okay,
not.
all right.
It, before we would issue them the final plat with the signatures, it needs to be paid for.
Okay, so we're covered that.
Yeah, Jerry, we don't typically have the draft. We just hold the Mylars until we get it.
Okay. All right, I wanted to make sure there were no more surprises. Yes, sir.
One thing did arise during the course of my discussions with the bank officer and with Jill just yesterday, and that is the necessity, at least my view, that there's a necessary license agreement or license grant by property owner applicant to the entry onto the property by the town in the event that we need to call the letter of credit and do the paving work. That had not been talked about here, or if it had, we hadn't vetted it very much. So it's my suggestion there be a simple license agreement, requirement in form and content acceptable to the property owner and the town, and that be a condition of approval
In the motion.
in the motion.
Okay.
License agreement to right to enter the property for a purpose or it can be simple, it doesn't need to be grand
Okay.
circular.
Chuck, John, you understand the motion? Mr. Foreman, you understand the motion?
I missed a little bit of that, the license.
Mr. Austin suggested a license to enter the property agreement with the town, if by chance
Gotcha.
the blacktop had to be finished. So, do you understand what that's all about?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Ryan, you're good?
Yes.
Okay. Jill, any thoughts?
Yeah.
You're good, Bob?
No, we're good. Don said, his letter, I believe it was dated September 14th. The dollar amount, 15th, September 15th, the dollar amounts were confirmed at your last meeting. This was the last item, was the letter of credit for the private improvements.
Okay.
The $242,741.40.
Correct.
Heather, are you clear?
Yes, I'm clear.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions about this?
I do not.
Okay. No, sir. Would someone like to make a motion regarding the Cedar Lake storage?
I'd like to make a motion, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, final plat, one lot subdivision, approval with the contingencies of this license agreement to be able to enter the property as read by the attorney earlier, as well as the letter of credit specifying the amount of the 242, 741.40, as well as the 3% inspection fee for 514, I think it was 514.20, as well as the MS4 agreement for $1,000.
And the 18,854 for.
And the 18,854 for the second, I think, letter of credit for private improvements.
Okay.
Public improvement.
Public improvements.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Forms. Everybody understand the motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Everybody understand the motion? Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Mr. Capora. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Heather?
She's on the delay.
She's not muted.
Heather Dessauer? Okay, continue the roll call.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Heather Dessauer, are you there?
She's muted now. Try one more time, Heather. Okay, now she's good.
Heather? We have a motion by John Foreman, second by John Capora for a approval of the Cedar Lake storage.
Yes, I'm here, yes.
Okay, are you good? Are you voting yes or no on that?
Yes, I'm voting yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Let's continue with item 3, Sedor final plat, one lot subdivision, owner Edward A. Sedor as personal representative of the estate of Joseph Sedor, 13616 Cedar Street, Cedar Lake. Petitioners, Joseph C. Svetnoff, 9801 Connecticut Street, Crown Point, Indiana, 46307. The vicinity is 13615 Cedar Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana, 46303. Petitioner is requesting the final plat for a one lot subdivision.
Good evening. Joseph Svetnoff, 9801 Connecticut Street, Crown Point, Indiana. As you stated earlier, Mr. Chairman, that we are here requesting a final plat for a one-lot subdivision.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Svetnoff. Mr. Austin, everything is good? Okay. Don, your letter here is pretty clear.
Yes, sir, from the 14th of September.
Yes, sir.
It would just be the three contingencies.
The 3 contingencies or the 5 contingencies?
Should only be 3 on it.
I'm sorry, I'm doing A through E. Okay, if someone would like to have any questions about this item? No? No. Okay. If someone would like to make a motion, please include Don's letter from September 14th and the recommended items 1, 2, and 3. If you'd like to read them out loud, that'd be great. Motion on Sedor.
I found the letter. I'd like to make a motion to approve Sedor final plat, one lot subdivision, based on Don's September 14th letter. He had, C-Bell had reviewed the site and they recommended the following engineering waivers we consider: stormwater detention, widening improvements in public roadway frontages, park dedication, tree placement requirements, frontage sidewalk requirements. Item 2, any future site plan related to this parcel will be reviewed prior to building permit being issued to address existing drainage concerns in the surrounding area. Item 3, and last item, the northeast property corner should be set as soon as access allows. Any future building permits will be withheld pending placement of this monument.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Foreman. Thank you very much, John. We have a second. Second by Mr. Sharp. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Abstain.
Mr. Capora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
In absence. Thank you, sir.
Have a great night.
Yep, thanks.
Good night.
Okay, we're gonna skip item 4. Okay, on to item 4, Beacon Point, Unit 6, 7, and 8, preliminary plat, owner petition Beacon Point of Cedar Lake LLC, 13300 Lakeshore Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana. City is 13800 Parish Avenue. Petitioners requesting preliminary plat for Beacon Point, Unit 6, 7, and 8. Hello.
Hello, Jack Halls from DBG, representing the petitioner Beacon Point of Cedar Lake LLC. This is what we formerly were calling the Beacon West project. We've already platted Unit 5 of this project. The Centennial Estates and Centennial Villas projects are also a part of this project. But this is the final area to the north of the detention pond next to Utopia, which includes Units 6, 7, and 8. It's the extension of King Street down through Summer Winds, connects to Beacon Point Lane, and provides that connectivity. We've prepared engineering plans and plats all in accordance with the ordinances regarding this subdivision, and we're requesting preliminary plat approval this evening on that.
All right, does anyone have any questions about anything at this point?
This is a public hearing, and legals are in order.
Okay, thank you. We have a letter from Don, October 15th, 2020. Don, do you have any concerns or comments?
2021.
I'm sorry, 2021. Don, any concerns other than...
No, there are 5 notes on there. One is regarding the covenant update to include 6 through 8. They have Beacon 5 recorded belonging to that unit. There is a blanket easement issue with the plat that can be cleaned up prior to final plat. And then numbers 1 and 4 kind of go hand in hand about some of their park dedication requirements and how they're addressing those requirements.
Okay, this is preliminary plat. So, tell us, how are you addressing the park?
Sure.
So,
We've submitted a letter to Don. I believe Jill has a copy of that also. It's been updated, so you may or may not have the most current one. I don't know what you have in your package, but we did a calculation based on the formulas that are in the ordinance. There's a population equivalent then that is applied to that, and then there's acreage calculations that are calculated, and we're in the neighborhood of, I think, initial calculations were the 4.1. Don's final calculations are closer to the 4.4 acres. There is land contribution that is going to be a part of, and already has been included as part of plats. As shown on the original master plan, central on King Avenue, there was a large park area just north of the detention pond on the west side of King Street, and that is included. So that is half of our land contribution requirement. And then there will be park improvements that will also go along with that, such as primarily sidewalk extensions from Utopia subdivision, connectivity also over to Centennial Villas, and then there's a large, this 2-acre area will be level, seeded, prepared for kind of like a ball, not, I won't say ball fields, but it would be play areas for a playground.
Is that outlot D?
That's outlot D, and it's also outlot D is platted, I don't know exactly what you're looking at, but there's an outlot D that is part of Centennial Villas. And then there's an outlot that's included in this subdivision, and those two outlots adjoin together, and they total.
Yours is E.
Ours is probably E, okay, yeah.
So I guess, Jack, I'm trying to figure out, you're talking about the pond west of King Street. This isn't on your property, this is in the Summer Winds unit.
Can I approach and see
Yeah.
what you're looking at?
You're talking about Summer Winds west of King Street, so.
No, I'm talking, so this is the outlot in Centennial Villas,
Yeah,
and we're dedicating this.
right.
So those two areas together are 2 acres. The detention pond runs through.
All right, I got you. Comes this way. All right. I was thinking you were far
Yeah.
north. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Chairman, Don has in his letter that we should ask what the changes are in lieu of. Don, could you clarify what your letter means? Applicant.
Yeah, so-
Acreage and/or in lieu of fee will be provided?
Yeah, so kind of summarize, wow, am I getting a bunch of feedback?
No?
Okay, never mind. So the letter kind of got tweaked a little bit this week. So the total dedication required for 6 through 8, Beacon Point and Centennial Estates Phase 1 through 2, 170 lots, it comes out to about 4.45 acres. They provided roughly about 2 acres when they combined their outlot C and Villa's outlot D. So that the remainder is about 2.4 acres that would be a fee in lieu of or contribution of sidewalk to Utopia, something to kind of make that up.
So
Okay.
some of the things that Jack mentioned from DVG here, does that suffice, in your opinion?
Then becomes a policy call. I know at I think not this task force session, but I believe the one before that, the Plan Commission requested a connection to Utopia. So they provided a path essentially from their park dedication outlot all the way to 136 Lane that kind of wraps around Sleepy Hollow Ditch and then connects into the end of Utopia. So we have some connection there. I believe it's their intent, and Jack can speak to this, to basically put a number value on that sidewalk, and then also put a number value on the acreage fee in lieu of and see if they balance out. I don't know if they will or not, but I think that's their intent.
Don, I think the question needs to start with what formula was used, because we have 2 formulas. One is one extreme and one is the other. And the sidewalk going around there is certainly going to be cheaper than making 136 Lane go all the way through, because they're going to be they lose 2 buildable lots there. So
the calculations they presented is they essentially assessed their per acre value. So the ordinance, when you start getting into these things, requires a fair market value of improved land. They are setting that value at $25,000 an acre. So for the roughly 2.4 acres that remain non-dedicated, that, doing the math, gets them to about $61,000 in contribution. They have some math for the sidewalk that goes to Utopia around a similar number. So before we accept that, we would need a more detailed estimate to verify that. But complete market condition is not required until final plat. The only reason I bring it up at this meeting is because Centennial Estates, Beacon 5, they're already gone to final plat. I just kind of want to keep it on everybody's radar.
okay.
So it sounds like it might break about even.
Yeah, it depends if you accept the valuation of the acreage. The subdivision ordinance just says fair market value of improved land. So I'm not a huge huge fan of that, because it's very subjective, so,
Well, it's not real subjective, Don. These improved lots have a value of $25,000 each, the ones that are just west of 136 Lane, 98 and 99. They won't be selling those lots for anywhere near that.
I agree.
I missed the last meeting when this kind of thing went amok, my opinion. Do you understand, John Foreman, what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I think so,
I mean,
but I don't know.
136 Lane could have been put through. They're getting two lots here.
But I
Don,
think we were the ones that
Yeah,
maybe didn't want it
Yeah, you
initially,
told us
because
not
we
to
didn't
do
want
that.
traffic cutting through the Utopia.
that's true, but we did talk about connectivity, which was the sidewalk.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Don, what's the value of that sidewalk according to your calculations?
We haven't run them yet. They presented calculations, they're not broken out, of roughly 50,000, 60,000, something like that. But, I mean, before we even agreed on that, we would need something more detailed, because they're pretty much just lump sum estimates right now.
Yeah, I think, John, Mr. Foreman, I think the discussion of leaving this center area and having to go the long way around to get to the school was how this all came to light. And I don't know, well, this is my opinion. I'm not sure how this sidewalk connecting the road has anything to do with park dedication. Mr. Becker, any thoughts on this?
The improved lots are, they're valued at $25,000 an acre? Is that what you said?
Well, yeah, and I can't see on here how many acres there are, but putting a road in would only affect two of them. So,
Is it 25,000 an acre or 25,000 a lot?
Yeah,
I don't remember what Don said.
I thought you said an acre.
Don, did you
They
say?
said an acre. They have an acre, which I would say is more geared towards unimproved.
It is. You're right.
What? I didn't hear you.
The number is more for an unimproved acre.
Unimproved, yeah.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Well, this is the preliminary plat, and I think this is gonna have to be worked through perhaps in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Is it possible to get, recent values that the plan commission has accepted for park dedications in other subdivisions? Because this is a common question as it's related, and so I think using comparables.
Yeah, it is.
that they've
Public
used.
records.
Yeah, exactly,
They're accessible.
exactly. So we can maybe get that from some recent minutes, because if you've accepted those values before, because that's probably where they came from, then there would be some reason
Yeah,
to
I
use
just,
those values.
without getting
Again.
too deep into Beacon Point, using the other park and it's already there for another park and that whole thing was, I'm not warm and fuzzy about that. Heather, do you have any questions? Heather Dessauer.
Sorry, no, I do not at this time.
I guess I would ask Don, Don, you have in your letter, required park dedication is 4 acres. So is it really good practice to minimize 4.1? And it says it appears outlot D was to be used for these subdivisions and provided 1 acre, leaving a remainder of required of 3 acres. So I guess my question is, with that number of residential lots, is it a good practice to continue to deduct parkland?
It's a planning question. I mean, would have to do an analysis of, what you guys want. It kind of goes to your comprehensive plan. You have a private park up in Summerway, Centennial has some parkland, Beacon Point does not. It's a difficult question for me to answer. It's more of a policy question than it is something I can really comment on.
Right, on the original Beacon Point, we waived the park in order for taking money to fix up the Kiwanis Park, which is finally starting to occur, but, there's just a lot of, on this side of the street, there's a lot of residential homes. Now granted, there is a Jane Ball Park, which is not always open, but I just wonder,
I think,
as a board, are we making the right decisions with,
Well, if I could interject.
well, hang on, this is a question, Jill, John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp? This park dedication is something that staffs here, town staff's gonna have to take care of. Okay,
forever, never, ever?
forever and ever. But there will be an HOA in this neighborhood.
There is an HOA, yes.
Maybe the HOA should be taking care of these parks. I don't know, I just, we need to get to the bottom of this. That Kiwanis Park being part of Beacon Point, the repairs to the bridge and those kind of things, I mean, I get it. But the, Beacon Point was, in a roundabout way, given a lot of real estate,
Yeah.
retail real estate in lieu of. So,
Yeah.
for the 50, so,
Yes.
anyhow, I think,
Well, I think, I guess,
I'm just,
when it comes to the amount of land,
yeah,
I think it would be helpful, at least we're making the assumption as a development team that we present a concept plan. Our concept plan hasn't changed
yeah, that's.
from when we started this project as far as what our park dedications were gonna be. So really at this point, it's the negotiations about what to do with that fee in lieu of. The land, the
Right.
2 acres, 2.1 or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all along what we agreed that we were gonna do for parkland dedications, and so,
Yeah,
you know,
I
it's
think-
really
I
the
think-
remaining piece that
yeah,
we're
I think,
talking
the
about.
value is the
Yeah,
snag.
and there again, we're just looking for recent comparables
Right.
that you guys, as a board, have accepted for parkland contributions. Frankly, and I said this to a number of staff people, I feel it would be very helpful that if the ordinance is not gonna be changed, that at least the plan commission consider making a motion at the beginning of the year saying, for the year 2022, all parkland contributions are gonna be this.
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's a way to use your
Every piece
existing
of real
ordinance.
estate's
but-
unique, Jack.
Hmm?
Every piece of real estate's unique, every parcel they see
Yeah,
before that,
That's fine, that's fine.
which is
I-
probably why.
What's problemsome is the two formulas that I believe still exist. As I said, one
Yeah, I mean, 'cause
one
the
is, one is one
alternative is
extreme,
to-
one's 25,000, the other one is 250,000.
Yeah, I mean, your ordinance does allow for us to plat this in 40 or less lots per unit, and then we just use $450 per lot.
It does not allow for that.
So,
That's for park dedications under 1.75 acres.
Yep. I got you.
But again, it's preliminary plat, so
Yeah,
we
exactly.
can work through these
Yep.
details, I think.
Okay,
This is a substantive hearing though,
yeah,
even though it says preliminary.
Well, right.
Preliminary doesn't mean preliminary.
Right, the next is just, adopt.
Right.
well, Heather, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, Mr. Carnahan?
I would like to see more parkland. We're getting a lot of residents in there. And if there's not enough parkland in there for all these kids to go to, I think that'll cause us a problem in the future.
Yeah, well, I could agree that that's quite probable.
But we did review this and agree. I think the only thing we're kind of fighting, as Jerry mentioned, is the value.
Yeah,
And how do we guess a number on it, right?
yeah. And if you saw, if you remember seeing the formulas, like I said, one works out to 25,000, another one works out for 250,000. They're on both ends of the spectrum.
I mean, could it be made, contingent on an amenable figure? Or is that too late?
I hope not.
That's
I
too
hope
late.
you don't do that, yes.
Then if a motion was made, how would it be made?
Depends what you want to do.
To leave this, to leave the lot 98 to 99, the value as a contingent.
It's your call.
Well now,
Mr. President,
yeah,
I would recommend that you open the floor, let's conduct a public hearing component of this,
okay.
and then you bring it back, that perhaps this get deferred for 2 weeks to, review and study session, and not trying to slow down a developer here, but there's more than meets the eye here.
Okay. Do we have anyone who would like to speak on Beacon Unit 6, 7, and 8, Beacon Point, formerly known as Beacon West? Any remonstrance for or against this preliminary plat request? Seeing none, public portion's closed.
And it looks like we have no attendees online either.
Thank you. Well, based on Mr. Austin's recommendation,
Well, Don, I have a question. Did the letter on the 14th or the 15th of October with your comments, did this just arise, or was this discussed and shown in prior meetings?
I mean, since this is the last portion of the subdivision to be preliminary platted at least, I mean, you may have seen these outlaws as part of concept plans, but this is the first time you've actually seen anything engineering-wise. I think when Beacon 5 got approved, it was said that park dedication requirements should be satisfied as part of 6 through 8, and now we're here. So technically, the ordinance states that park dedication will be basically handled as final plat.
Mr. Austin's recommending that we do not handle it final plat, it be handled as preliminary plat.
And he suggested we defer this.
Yeah, he did suggest a deferral and take it up at the work session and get it resolved.
Would you have approval, Jack, in order to change these numbers that you've discussed?
I can't make any commitments for the developer regarding the values.
Well, I think maybe hashing it out in 2 weeks may be the best thing to do, because it may be the forever formula.
Or staff and Jack can get together on the documentation, the historical values. We can have something more solid than we have right here now.
Yeah. What would you need from us?
Well, I
Any
think,
fee in
so
lieu of?
I think according to the calculations, we first determine what the acreage requirements are. I don't think there's any disagreement on either side as to what the acreage requirement is. That's a little over 4, okay? So now we have a land contribution and we have a fee in lieu of contribution. And so there is acreage that's being granted as part of this, so that addresses roughly half of the requirement. And so then it's the remaining portion that we're talking about for a fee in lieu of contribution. And the items which with the Plan Commission would agree could be counted as park contributions. So there's, I think when you're saying that you would not consider a sidewalk connectivity as part of a parkland contribution, and then you're also debating their parkland contribution or their value, they probably are going to feel like they're getting double hit because they're not getting credit for work that you asked them to do, and they said, we'll do that if you'll consider doing that as a parkland contribution. Consider.
I don't remember we talked about the connectivity.
Well,
As a matter of fact,
there's
I think
more
it
than
was-
just a sidewalk, because if you'll see item number 4 on Don's letter, he's actually asking for a safety fence to be installed as part of that connectivity. And then we have to do some guardrail repairs. So there's substantial initial cost of just putting that connection in. And then, you know, we're not necessarily required to put sidewalk connectivity between through the park to Centennial Villas. So that I think it's reasonable that that's an amenity for the subdivision also. So one case for arguing, I would say, if we can leave those items in as parkland contribution, then really all we're talking about is the value of that work versus the value of the land. And then, as it relates to your ask to me as to what would be helpful, I think we need to know from recent petitions, so I can think of a number of recent residential subdivisions what was the parkland value that the Plan Commission agreed to for those similar type projects. So, you know, is there a value that was kind of settled upon in there?
My impression of what Jack Slager had said when we talked about connecting it, we talked about a bridge, we talked about some other things. I don't recall it being related to any dedication. It was just to create some connectivity because 136 didn't go through. I guess my other question is these two outlots, D and E, how much of those lots are used as a waterway?
A little less than a half of an acre.
Okay. Everything pools in outlot F.
Oh, yeah. That area is a couple hundred feet wide, it's a nice rectangle, 2 acres square, and it straight grades from the houses down to the pond, so it's, it's basically gonna be flat, appeared flat. Great place to play frisbee, ball, soccer, that kind of thing.
All right.
Don, do you have any value for those items that Jack just discussed?
We just have kind of what I would count the lump sum costs. They need to be broken out a little bit more to actually have unit costs affixed to them, so not really something that we would accept.
Okay, so you're not comfortable throwing us a number?
I'm not. I don't know how long the sidewalk is. I don't know how much, there's likely going to be a requirement for a guardrail due to the proximity of it right next to the creek, and that's a specialty item. I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head.
Are we talking about
Okay, so it very well could be apples to apples, Jack. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems like
we feel
it
it's pretty close.
Yeah, it feels like it's fair.
What is this fence or handrail? What are the concepts of that?
Well, our concept is not to have it. Don's concept is that we do need to have one.
Well, somebody in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I don't necessarily, I see Don's point, okay. So, NDOT has a specification for pedestrian fence along sidewalk in these types of conditions, and it would be similar to that, which would be like a wood split rail, a little bit taller than a split rail fence, but it's a split rail looking type of a fence. It may be because of the look that they want to go with, that they use a PVC material, but it's a post with 3 lines between it, that type of a fence. It's about this high.
Something maintenance
It's
free.
not privacy.
Yeah, something maintenance free would certainly be to everyone's advantage.
Is it something like by Hanover High School?
Yes.
Wrought iron?
Right off 133rd near their new athletic fields.
Yeah, they're doing wrought iron. We probably wouldn't, it would not be our intention to do wrought iron, but, that's.
Fake wrought iron.
Well, the specific case would be,
I don't think we want to be upside down on the parkland contribution.
pretty much the exact guardrail. Handrail is right outside. It was installed as part of 133rd Phase 2, where the box culvert goes under 133rd, actually into the Schilling, kind of towards the Schilling Distribution Center. There's a handrail right out there for a very similar reason.
Okay.
Because the sidewalk drops off into that ditch. And that's why that was required, it would be the same exact requirement.
Okay. Well, I think, probably, breaking this down a little bit and having another discussion, if you have any, designs for this fence, this, whatever this.
So just so I can take some things back to my client, you are looking for a specific breakdown of, with lineal foot, quantities, exact quantities of the things that we're intending to provide to the town as part of that parkland contribution. We have the acreage calculation, and then I'll work with Jill to go back through some recent minutes and determine if there's any values that we could use for discussion purposes. And then we'll bring that back to work study.
I think that's, probably fair. Don, what are we using now for sidewalk cost? Is it $30 a foot, and it's what, 4 feet wide?
5 feet wide, I forget what we have in the in lieu of ordinance I have in front of me, it's something like that. Just a kind of a point of order too, we're gonna go back to say Beacon Point Central and Beacon Point East. Keep in mind, those were PUDs. So they had a little more, wiggle room for negotiation. So I don't know if you necessarily want to apply those exact costs that were agreed upon now. The actual thing in the ordinance requires an appraisal.
Okay.
So,
I'm asking you, what have we used in this room as a sidewalk fee in lieu of number?
Sidewalk being lower.
Yeah, sidewalk fee in lieu of. Was it?
35,
You're 35, you remember 35?
but that's what's in the,
Okay,
what we're trying to change it to.
okay.
That-
All right.
So that would be 600 feet of sidewalk, according to, basically some of the values that we've been putting to it, and we are planning to put more like 1,000 feet in there, so
Okay, I think
I think
Mr. Foreman
we can use
may
those numbers.
be correct. We could end up on the fair and square here. But, our engineer hasn't reviewed it, and,
Yeah.
I think we need to, get this dialed in the next work session. Heather, do you have any questions?
No, I do not, thank you.
Mr. Carnahan, Mr. Foreman, anyone?
No more.
Okay. I guess, then what we're looking for is a, motion to defer this item.
Defer it to the first of November, the first meeting in November? The
Third.
work session.
To defer this to the work session.
November 3rd.
Yeah. No, was it? November what?
So you're pushing this a month or 2 weeks, I think that's what, are you asking?
That's what I'm asking, yeah. Can we vote? Can we have a,
Don't know until we get data and study this.
Okay.
Don, do you think the November 3rd, if we did do a, special public meeting per se, do you think that gives you enough time to give us some advice?
That's a question for Don?
Don?
yes, yeah.
Sorry, Don, my mic was off.
sorry, I think I was muted. The dialing in the cost for the sidewalk and that information, that's easy. Jack and I can work that out in a day probably.
Okay.
It's gonna be a matter of how do we get to the appropriate land value? That's gonna be the hardest thing to get.
Well, you said in the ordinance, there's an appraisal required.
It is, whether or not that's actually been enforced in past, dedications, I don't remember one, put it that way.
I don't remember.
Jerry,
Yes, sir.
before we get too far in the weeds, if the deferral's in order,
Yeah,
they
we need
should
to.
be considered, we need to get the data gathered.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussion to be
I
had.
think the only reason it's helpful is like, what are you expecting from us to bring back to you? And if an appraisal is what you're expecting, then that does change our perspective a little bit, probably.
I would think we wouldn't need a
Well, we all have a good idea, we have a good idea about what improved lots are selling for.
Sure.
We have a pretty good idea. Using past reference, of course, is, probably not real indicative of what the cost of the values are now. I think we need to talk about this at the next work session, and, at the next, when's the next meeting?
Well, I would think though that if the engineers and our staff come up with a resolution, they may decide that it might make sense to do something in terms of a special public meeting. I don't know that we have to decide that tonight.
We have to know when, he wants to know when he's gotta come back.
Well, right, he has to come back for the work
I'll be
session.
He'll be back
regardless.
I'll be back either way.
He'll be here
He'll
at
be
the
here
November
either way.
3rd meeting regardless.
Prepared or not.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna address, from our standpoint, we're gonna address this for the work study.
Yeah.
It's a matter of whether or not you feel that that information will be vetted enough that you can make a decision, or if you wanna talk about it and make a decision in 2 weeks, which, that's up to you guys, whatever you.
I think we need to go over this in 2 weeks and then follow it up in a meeting. Does anybody have any other thoughts?
No, sir.
Ms. Murray?
Just confirming that it's a work session item,
Yeah.
not a special public meeting.
Yeah. You know, it was your idea for this sidewalk in the first place. I'm sorry, it was your idea for the connectivity, and I appreciate that,
Connectivity
because
is great.
it needed to be that way.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, yeah, I think that's important, yeah.
Going a long way to school,
Yeah.
uphill both ways.
It's
is
a
just
different way
not
of
good.
looking at a park,
5 miles
is what it is.
in the snow.
No.
Okay, would anyone like to make so we need to defer this to the next meeting?
Work session.
November
We're not voting though.
We're not voting. Work session. It's a work
Okay,
session.
all right. Okay, the motion needs to be, regarding moving this deferring this to the next work session, which is November
3rd.
3rd. But it was a work session. Everybody clear?
Yes.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Capora for a deferral.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Sauer?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Capora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Item 5, Centennial Estates Phase 2, final plat, Cedar Lake, owner petitioner, Cedar Lake Development LLC, 8051 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake, vicinities 13830 Parish Avenue. Petitioner is requesting a final plat for Centennial Estates Phase 2, 26 lots. Good
Good
evening.
evening, Jeff Yatsko, Olthoff Homes. Yes, we're seeking secondary plat approval for Centennial Estates Phase 2, 26 lots. We received Don's letter with the performance letter of credit amount, the inspection fee amount, and the MS4 fee, and we have no problem with all of the amounts listed in that letter.
Okay. I guess someone makes a motion, they need to include all the numbers in Don's letter. Okay, Mr. Austin?
Or reference Don's letter and attach it to the letter, correct?
Yes. We're all good with legals? Okay. Don, anything on this item right now?
The 26 residential lots will finish off Centennial Estates, so that connection into Centennial will be complete. The 3 numbers, so the overall letter of credit value required would be $132,532.10. That is the maximum reduction allowed at 25%. The 3% inspection fee would be $15,903.85, and then the $2,000 MS4 fee.
Okay. Well, the 530 was the old number, okay. Okay, do any commissioners have any questions about the request?
No.
No.
Mr. Carnahan?
No.
Okay. I guess, then, if anyone would like to make a motion on this item. This is for
Don, did you have all those numbers in your letter?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Even the MS4 fee?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I see it, at the very bottom.
3,000, yeah.
And for clarification, Don, the 530, is the old number.
That would be the full freight amount. We put that on there just because we use that number to set our maintenance letter of credit. So the maintenance letter of credit will be 10% of that eventually.
Okay,
What is the date of the letter?
October 14th,
Thank you.
2021. Okay, the petitioner is requesting a final plat for Centennial Estates, Phase 2, 26 lots. I think everyone is clear on this item. If not, say so. Otherwise, I would appreciate a motion.
Mr. President?
Yes.
For the record, the document in front of you on Centennial Estates Phase 2 has Tradewind Place, north-south. That one was recently changed to Alexandria. So on your final document, that will be noted as Alexandria. We had it east-west and it curved.
That's on here somewhere?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I just wanted to make it noted.
Okay, yeah, please make
We
sure that's,
reviewed that again with police and fire, so that is one street, but
please make sure that's in
Just
the
names.
minutes. Is everyone clear on what Jill just told us? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Would anyone like to make a motion on the final plat approval?
I'll make a motion to, approve, final plat for Centennial Estates, Phase 2, 26 lots, to include Don's letter of October 14th, 2021. That's it?
That's it?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. I'm sorry, motion by Mr. Kapora, second by Mr. Sharp. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Sauer?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 6 on our agenda, Centennial Villas, Phase 2, final plat. Petitioners requesting final plat for Centennial Villas, Phase 2, 14 lots.
Good evening, Jeff Yatsko again, Bolthoff Homes. Yeah, so we're seeking final plat approval for Phase 2, which does not complete the villas. It's 14 lots, these are duplexes, so it's 28 units. And again, we received the review letter, and we are comfortable with all the amounts listed in that letter.
Okay, Mr.
So
Austin,
the
we're good?
3% is $12,472.84. And then, credit is, $415,761.35, and then.
That's the full amount.
Hang on.
103.
Hold on, Bob, hold on. Mr. Austin, everything's in order?
Everything's in order.
Okay. Don, would you run through these numbers for us, please?
So Bob got the first one, 12,472.84, and then it's a reduced letter of credit volume, so they're down to the 25% minimum too, which is $103,940.34, and then the $2,000 MS4 fee.
Okay, I got
Okay.
that.
You good, Bob?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Date of the letter?
Date of the letter, October 14th, 2021, Christopher Burke Engineering. Okay, Heather, do you have any questions about this item?
I do not, sir, thank you.
Mr. Carnahan, he's good. Building, Jill,
All good.
good? Mr. Foreman, Mr. Sharp?
Good, sir.
Everybody's good?
Good.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion and to include, please include the letter from October 14th, 2021 with the dollar amounts as shown?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for Centennial Villas, Phase 2, 14 lots, to include Don's letter of October 14th, 2021.
A motion by Mr. Kapora. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Becker. Everybody understands the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Sauer?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay. Item number 7, Starcevic preliminary plat for one lot subdivision, owner petitioner Tom Starcevic, 5716 North Rockwell, Chicago, Illinois, 60659. Vicinity is 7615 West 142nd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting a final plat for a one lot subdivision. Good evening.
Good evening. Tom Starcevic, 5706 North Rockwell, Chicago, Illinois, 60659. Here requesting a preliminary plat for a one lot subdivision.
All right. Mr. Austin, we are where we are?
We are where we are.
Okay.
This has been before you, and legal for an order.
I guess there has not been a approval by the BZA for this item yet. So I guess legally, any approval of this would affect that how, Mr. Austin?
The use of the property, essentially, this proposed structure to be constructed, which is the subject of variance petitions, actually. The Town's Board of Zoning Appeals, that process is in mid-proceeding. It is not concluded. It's on the agenda for next month, having been deferred from the last month, or this month, excuse me. So,
okay.
that's the status procedure.
Mr. Foreman, you look like you're going to ask a question.
I am. I think this is the property that I have highlighted up here on the screen.
It is.
Correct.
And again, I think this is a preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision, so it's really just identifying the 4 points of the property. So I think that this is not connected to the BZA, because the BZA is about building and getting variances. This is just, hey, I have a meets and bounds parcel or whatever, and I'm trying to change it to a one-lot subdivision, kind of like we've been discussing.
Yeah, that's why I was asking Mr. Austin
Right.
how this,
And he's been consistent with that explanation. Not everything, but, you know, this is kind of a person wanting to get a platted
yeah,
survey,
I understand.
4 points.
Yeah, Jill?
The plat in front of you and presented though,
Uh-huh.
at the BZA, they have requested specific setbacks, being the fact that it's a corner lot, and a narrower lot of 66.5 feet.
Right.
So the plat presented to you was based upon those BZA approvals of those setbacks. So otherwise, you would have to be 30 feet off of Green Lakes and 30 feet off of 142nd.
So this preliminary
So the-
plat,
So the BZA is asking for variances, is what you're saying?
He requested variances, and those variances are indicated on this plat. So the plat that has been reviewed by your engineer is based upon getting those approvals for those setbacks.
that's what
So-
ties this together.
That's what ties it together. So there's been no new submittal of the plat, as this item has been deferred by the BZA.
Gotcha. Don, so the plat that we're looking at here, the preliminary plat of Starcevic subdivision, is different than what I'm looking at on GIS? 68.95 feet by my calculation.
No, I mean, GIS is only gonna show you property lines. It's the setbacks that become an issue, because what's shown on there is dependent on BZA approving them. So like Jill said, the corner lot, you would need a 30 by 30 front yard setback off of Green Leaf and 142nd. That would essentially make his current house legal non-conforming, and it was non-conforming.
Yeah.
But if those setbacks were not in question, right, on the BZA, this would be, we'd have been done.
This would be like Sedor.
Yeah, just an empty lot.
Yeah,
So because there's a house, it's different.
That's right.
and their setbacks
Gotcha. Okay,
that have to be approved by the BZA.
gotcha. That answers my question.
So, Jill, there's a material here, William Arden, Arden Land Surveying, Is there anything here that's of concern? Doesn't seem to be.
No, just the items noted in Don's report.
Okay.
There was some question on that, right-of-way along Greenleaf.
Yeah, there was, I think the Greenleaf right-of-way was still in question, but I believe 2 weeks ago, or last week, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom also, did you guys agree on a 10-foot? Was that
Well-
kind of what was discussed for Greenleaf?
You had asked, so our initial recommendation was that 12 feet of right-of-way be dedicated to keep it straight. And I was asked to go back and say what was the minimum we could allow. It's kind of on a skew. It's either a 10-foot or it's a skewed 10 to 7 foot because the road kind of cuts at an angle. That'd be the minimum we would want.
7 to 10 being the minimum, or?
Yes.
Okay,
Would be the bare minimum. I prefer it to be straight, but it doesn't have to be.
yeah. I'm just trying to remember what everything was discussed last week on this item. That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else here, Don, that needs some review or kind of waiting? We're kind of waiting.
We request that the sanitary sewer be actually surveyed and located to make sure that the easement shown on the plan is correct. Right now, we don't have a document that shows the actual sewer in the ground.
Does Public Works have such a thing?
Maybe. It's gonna be a lot more exact, picking up 2 manholes and drawing a line. So, they probably have something from their old sewer atlases, but it's not gonna be exact.
Okay.
We have not responded to the latest request for a 10-foot easement. We have not responded to that yet, because I think we need some clarification on why we are being asked for a 10-foot easement. 142nd Street, we have compromised with the town, and we have provided 4.95 feet of our property at a length of 150 feet to the city to the town in order to provide fuller roadway, I believe is the explanation. Now we're being asked for 10 to 12 feet of roadway on Greenleaf Street, which is already 20 feet wide. They're asking for an additional 10 feet to make this road 30 feet wide. 142nd Street is 17 foot wide. And I'm already making a compromise with 4.5 feet, almost 5 feet of my property along 142nd Street at 150 foot of length, causing me a major hardship by me losing that square footage, being close to 5 times 150, 750 square feet of footage, and my approximate value of my property is $20 per square foot. I got over $500,000 into my property. I'm willing, and I already have made the concession to give the town this 750 square feet times $20. That's $15,000 that's out of my pocket in order to make the roadway right, which they're not having any plans of making the roadway right. And then now I'm being asked for a different street because I'm on the corner. Now I'm being asked for 30 feet of a roadway, which just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. And I feel like I'm making concessions here to try to get this done. And the town is coming back to me, I think, with an extremely unfair and unreasonable request for a 10-foot easement off my property. And I was willing to work with the town, and I still am, except that the last meeting that I was at, it was brought up of if I want to build a house on my property, I'm going to run into additional issues over square footage of my overall land. My property is one of the largest properties, if you see, in the Wilson subdivision. Thus, I'm asking for a garage to fit all my stuff in. This committee has told me that they're not warm and fuzzy on it because I'm going to have a garage that's bigger than what some of my neighbors' properties are.
We didn't, this committee did.
Some of the members of these
maybe.
Yeah, some of the members of this committee have advised me, and thus my project has been deferred. And I think this is an extremely unreasonable ask to ask for an additional 10 feet of my property at what should have been 69.95, feet wide, which on our plat survey, we have reduced down to 65 feet in order to appease the town and make concessions on 142nd Street. And in return, none of our requests have been granted, they've all been deferred, and we feel that at this time, to ask for this amount of land is an unreasonable ask on the town's behalf.
Well, I'd like to get a more clear explanation on this 10-foot of Greenleaf. Don, are you suggesting that Greenleaf be 30 feet wide?
No, we talked about this at the work session 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
Greenleaf as it sits, its edge of pavement is inside Mr. Sarkovic,
yes.
his property. It is not unreasonable nor uncommon to ask for right-of-way dedication to encompass public roadway. Yes, the existing roadway is 20 feet wide, but the actual roadway does not fit in that right-of-way as it sits now. So in order for the town to safely maintain and legally maintain that roadway in the future, it needs to be within the public right-of-way. So we do this on almost every one-lot subdivision in town, is to have right-of-way dedications to properly encompass roadways, utilities, you name it. Several different instances for it. It is not uncommon.
Well,
But do we need them on both, on 142nd and Greenleaf? Is there
Yeah, the reason 142nd was dedicated is because there's a utility line that had to be shifted into the public right-of-way. So it's not always just roadways, it's utilities, it's roadway segments, it's a lot of different items that require.
I guess,
Mr. President,
yes, sir.
may I respond just
Sure.
from a law perspective? And
Sure.
purely a law perspective, if you're gonna make the platting decision. Your monetary concerns are not the town's concerns, sir. Our zoning and subdivision ordinances are the law of the town. And if you bought this lot and didn't know that, that's your circumstance, not ours. If you wanted to build your improvements following our ordinances, you would not need to be here. And you can easily and happily do that if you would like. The town does enforce its ordinances, and it does uniformly apply specifications and details for development when appropriate, and when your application or the application of an individual owning property like you is before us, you're here because you're not meeting our laws, and hence you are compromising, I'll use your word, with the body that has the authority to grant approvals. That's how a negotiation ends up occurring, because you are not bringing us something that is compliant with our laws. And so, understand that's not something we take lightly. This body meets twice a month, as you know, and does this regularly, and they apply their laws here uniformly.
John, Mr. Sharp, just for some clarification regarding the BZA.
Sure.
This building has a variance almost every step of the way. However, Mr. Sarcevic has offered to lower the height of it by 6 feet.
Right, but we have never seen what you have seen. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
We just know
That's
he's
true.
trying to do
I'm
something
just-
somewhere on this
and-
property.
And,
We're talking about a one-lot subdivision.
yeah, and hardship was discussed and all that stuff was discussed.
Got it.
Don, the road is clearly in his yard.
Yep.
So, I mean, asking for more of his yard, I gotta tell you, this piece of this almost doesn't make any sense to me. The road's not where it's supposed to be, just like the curve by South Shore.
But it's bizarre because I own to the center and beyond of Parish Avenue. I click on GIS, I own it. Yet, I can't go get it.
Well, that's true, but when it comes to setbacks, like the new home
Yeah.
by the curve by South Shore,
Yeah.
that road is on their property.
Right.
This road's on his property.
Yep.
Is there some other way to, I mean, is there some other way to fix this? I mean, I know it's existing non-conforming, but, and this 10-foot has nothing to do with really his overall building that he wants to build. I'm just,
You all know as well as I do, that's how they platted it back in the day. It's kind of what we're stuck with. It's Cedar Lake.
well, if the road was redone, even chip and seal, it could be put back where it's supposed to be, correct?
We could,
Unless these other people have things built out into the road.
and that is likely. That's a possibility.
So Don's saying an extra 10 feet from what on the west side of Greenleaf, right? Down on
Yes.
the corner?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And as well, just to point out, my neighbor's driveway is only 5 or 6 foot off of that line, where you see that all concrete driveway that goes all the way from east to west. So where the cursor is at right there, their driveway comes to 4 feet off of their property line. Their property line is also where my property line is showing. So will they have to incur the same burden and be responsible
Yeah.
for the cost of bringing the road up to modern standards?
Well, yeah, the road's on their property also. I'm
Correct.
clicking on it right now.
So when the road goes to fix, will that be a part of their burden as well? And will that be part of my burden to correct this mistake that was made when it was originally plotted?
Could be. That potentially exists.
I mean, this is all triggered by a one-lot subdivision process. So if they come in for a one-lot subdivision, they would have to meet the same standard.
Yeah.
But they have a brand-new house that's built with a $1.4 million house. They're not doing any construction of their place. Matter of fact, I have to look at that building when I walk out my front door, and I see nothing but a 7,000 square foot flat brick wall that my neighbor is telling me she doesn't want to look at a garage that fits on my property, but yet we're faced with what we're faced with.
Yeah, I think I was clear at the BZA regarding the complaints of flooding and the way the water runs on 142nd. I was very clear about that. I'm very clear on that topic. The other complaints are what they are. The man wants to put as much stuff as he can put in this building. And all those parameters that we have to make decisions on are what we make decisions on.
Well, based on what Don is saying, I get now what he's talking about on Greenleaf. And, but again, we're here for a preliminary plat. So to me, it's pretty cut and dry. I didn't realize
Not cut
there
and
was
dry
things
because of
with the
setbacks.
BZA.
Yeah, it's not cut and dry
No.
because of setbacks.
If we could get the setbacks that are being
With no setbacks.
suggested
Yeah.
for this additional 10 feet that he didn't know about, then I'm totally